Around 20 people per minute are victims of intimate partner violence in the United States. That adds up to more than 10 million people each year. And it can happen to anyone, your friend, a neighbor, coworker, or the person standing behind you at the coffee shop. When it comes to those who have experienced domestic violence, there are two types of people: the victims, who often never get the chance to share their story, and survivors, like the woman you're about to meet, who lived to tell about it. Jennifer Hotai's story has a happy ending, but this is no fairy tale. She moved to Myrtle Beach over a decade ago with her first husband. But when the marriage fell apart, she began browsing Craigslist to find a roommate.
I was just looking for anything so that I can have some place to live. And through that, I met him.
Over time, the friendship grew into a romantic relationship, eventually going from roommates to husband and wife. Things started normally, but within the first year of marriage, she started noticing red flags.
He had addiction problems, serious anger problems, and some violent tendencies too, and I just thought, oh, he's going to get over it, he's going to grow out of it.
Over time, mental abuse turned physical. She says it became so severe and frequent, daily life became virtually unlivable.
There's a saying, death by 1,000 cuts. So I was experiencing a cut every day over a period of a year.
She says one of the worst punishments was sleep deprivation. She wasn't allowed to sleep while her abuser was awake. Since he was an addict, that often meant staying up for days on end. And when she tried to sneak away,
he would either smother me with a pillow or spray cologne in my face, blast the music to like level 70, and keep it on until I come back in the room and sit next to him. It was just nonstop hell.
Leaving, or even asking for help, didn't feel like an option, not just due to his control over her, but also his repeated promises to end her life.
He sometimes gets creative with it. It's like, oh, if we call the police and whatnot, I'm going to slam your head against the concrete and drag your face along the gravel so that you're going to have to get reconstructive surgery to repair your face.
Then, April 22nd of this year, she says after refusing a forced sexual encounter with her abuser, the night erupted in violence, fueled by his rage and substance abuse. She describes it as a moment when something in her just broke.
I think subconsciously my mind got into survival mode of my mind, my brain getting into the animal instinct. You gotta get out, get out, get out, get out now, or else he's gonna kill you.
Jennifer's abuser chased her through the home and into the garage. She says he opened the garage door, trying to flex his power with an ultimatum: stay and remain under his control, or be kicked out to the streets. Knowing she might never have another opportunity, she made a run for it.
The door opened, and my body just acted on its own.
And made the call that saved her life.
Myrtle Beach 911, where's your emergency?
So I got kicked out of the house by my husband, but he's been extremely abusive for the past month. And it's getting worse and worse. So he's threatening to kill himself or kill me.
Does he have any weapons, like guns, knives?
He just has knives.
An officer to you, just stay at the pool.
When officers arrested her abuser, she felt a moment of relief until she received an email the next day from the Myrtle Beach police saying he was being released. Isolated and with nowhere to go, she started looking at what to do and where to go next. But it wouldn't be easy. According to a survey by the National Network to End Domestic Violence, approximately 81% of all unmet requests by victims in South Carolina last year were for housing and emergency shelter.
I feel like the process for getting the order of protection was easy. The other part about seeking shelter and safety, that was pretty much non-existent. Because when I called many times and called to the phone numbers that the police department provided for me, they were either all busy signals or they're saying they weren't open or didn't have any room.
Jennifer Hotai's story is harrowing and at the same time all too common. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men experience some sort of intimate partner violence. In South Carolina, the numbers are even higher, up to 42% of women and 29% of men. And the state ranks 6th in the nation for number of women murdered by men. Yet many victims suffer in silence.
Most people, including my family, didn't know I was in such a serious situation.
To learn more about why many victims don't come forward, I went to Columbia to meet with the executive director of the South Carolina Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, Sarah Barber. She says it starts early, with more than 10% of high school students reporting experiencing intimate partner violence in their dating relationships.
And we all know what happens when girls come forward and talk about their experience of violence. They're often shamed and they often end up having to leave those schools. And so that shaming starts young and it carries on.
For victims, being shamed and dissected rather than believed can be a trauma all its own.
Victims very rarely perfect. And why should they be? Why does somebody have to reach a level of perfection before we believe them? Because then we're still not going to believe them.
Barber also reminds us, despite the circumstances, at the center of these relationships is love. So when you ask a victim why they don't just leave, the answer can be complex.
When you love someone enough, you think that you can help them and get over this behavior, and that's the trap right there.
The first response is another question, which is leave and go where?
To help victims in Horry and Georgetown counties, the Family Justice Center, led by Executive Director Kim Parsons, works closely with local housing authorities and income-sensitive apartments. For over a decade, the center has provided counseling, safety planning, case management, court advocacy, and other services.
Nobody pays for anything. Everything is free.
It's also the only agency with a domestic violence shelter serving Horry County, where about 70% of their clients originate. The problem? It's located 45 minutes away in Georgetown. And
we only have 3 bedrooms at the shelter to house people, and we have a maximum capacity of 9. So it's not much at all.
Then, if a victim needs a ride to the shelter from law enforcement, it takes double the resources. An Horry County deputy drives them to the county line, and a Georgetown deputy then takes them the rest of the way. As home to the fastest growing city in the nation, it's no surprise the number of domestic violence cases in Horry County has grown every year since 2019. And behind these numbers are people needing help. People like Jennifer Hotai.
I wish there was somebody or more resources out there that said, please take a look at this. This could save your life.
To meet the growing need, a push from state lawmakers led to an announcement last December, awarding the Family Justice Center $1.5 million to build a new domestic violence shelter in Horry County. But 10 months on, and progress is basically on hold. Parsons tells me it's mostly due to waiting on engineers and the architect to create renderings for the new shelter. When those are complete, they can apply for permits and, once approved, really get the ball rolling. Thanks to a local donor, they have the land. Located off East Cox Ferry Road in Conway, and with the help of Horry County Chief Deputy Tom Fox, we got an exclusive look at the property and a preview of what Parsons says is in store for the future.
We're very excited that we're going to have a shelter in Horry County that's going to be at least double the size of our shelter now. So we're looking at 18 to 20 beds. All of our staff will be in a building in the front. And one thing that I'm very excited about, because I'm a huge animal lover.
I was waiting for this. I had this on my list.
Yeah. So we're going to have a pet area for cats and for dogs. But that's a big reason why sometimes people won't leave. They don't want to leave their pet.
Parsons tells me they're hoping to have the new shelter up and running by December 2023. In the meantime, she says the biggest concern going forward is securing the funding it needs to stay open long term. However, there are ways you can help. She says they are always looking for volunteers, or you can come support their biggest fundraiser of the year, the Taste of Georgetown. That's happening this Saturday, November 12th from noon to 3. You can find information on that event and more ways you can get involved on our website, WMBFnews.com.